Happy Tuesday once again. Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel coming at you. I recorded a video this morning, talked about Tennessee basketball and some happenings going on with members of the roster currently with what Chaz Lanier did with KD Challenge, Cam Carr going to the Jason Tatum Elite Camp, and then Igor Milicic Jr. being chosen for the 12-man roster for Poland's qualifying team. So I talked about that this morning. I'll link that at the end for you. But let's continue on with baseball here. We're rock and roll baseball. Of course, 1 week ago, as of yesterday, Tennessee, your 2024 national champion. So now the next process with Tennessee's roster is how's the draft going to impact? There's a lot of moving parts coming up. Of course, the portal does close today. So any outgoing departures have to be put in today. Of course, Tennessee had 3 yesterday. I made a video on that. I'll link that at the end. Also, Robin Villeneuve, Brad Keylori, and Derek Schaefer all hit the portal. I'll talk about how that may impact Tennessee next year. And then, of course, there's, you don't have to be announced to a team by today. You just have to be in the portal today on it. So we're going to talk about that. And then, I'm going to talk about the draft. There's a lot of speculation coming and going. I've been pretty consistent this whole time throughout on how I think it will affect Tennessee. And my opinion's really not changed on that. My only question is going to be, how does it impact the high school kids on it? So, let's start with the pitching. The current pitching, here's what I know. Xander Sechrist, Kirby Cannell, Chris Stamos are out of eligibility. They are done. So they don't have a COVID year or any of that. They will be done. I got to think the way Xander Sechrist pitched down the stretch, somebody's going to give him a chance, whether they draft him or whether it's an undrafted free agent contract. I got to think he at least gets a chance in the minors with someone. I'm not sure on Cannell and Stamos. I personally think there's still a place for a guy like Kirby Cannell who can come in, who can get the job done. Yes, he doesn't throw 95, 96 or any of that. I still think there is a place in this game for guys who throw mid to high 80s. So I really do. And I think it's a lost art, especially I would think having that ability to mix up your pitch speeds, because if guys are seeing nothing but 95 to 100, I mean, there's different levels of it. I get, but I mean, like I compare a Nate Snead high 90s to a Marcus Phillips high 90s. Snead doesn't really have that out pitch where he strikes out a ton of guys. You look at his strikeouts per inning versus Marcus Phillips. It's just a totally different thing when they're both on. And I don't know. It may not make sense. Maybe I'm just talking out my hind end here on it. But based on what I see from both, I do see a difference. When Phillips is on, the way his ball moves and rises, he's hard to hit when he's on. He really is. And I'm excited to see him back next year. Both of those guys will be back next year, barring that they don't enter the portal today, which I've heard nothing to even suggest that at all. I think there's both of those guys will be vital members of the team next year. Excuse me. But Drew Beam, he'll be a high enough round draft pick. He's gone. Probably first 2 to 3 rounds is I would think 3rd round is the floor, but I really expect higher than that. Drew Beam gone, Sechrist gone, of course, Stamos gone. I still expect AJ Causey to get drafted. I really do. I wonder if his stock took a hit after his 2 games in the College World Series, but for most of the year, I would really put it, he had 4 bad outings. And as many outings as he had, that's a small percent. I still think a team takes a chance on him somewhere in those teams. I'm not expecting him back, but out of all the pitchers who are eligible to come back, I would consider him the most likely to not get drafted. And I'll talk about these in a minute. If somebody says, well, could they come back and improve their stock? I've talked a lot about this along the way, and I'll talk more about it here in just a few minutes. Aaron Combs, I expect him to be drafted as well. He hit up to 94 against A&M, so he can hit that. He has good breaking stuff along the way. As far as other guys out of your bullpen, as your main guys, I really don't see him being affected. I mean, of course, like I said, Cannell's out eligibility. Snead will be back. Marcus Phillips will be back. Of course, Phillips didn't play as much into it. Of course, we already know Matthew Dallas, Derek Schaefer have both hit the portal. So Tennessee, they're going to have to add arms to the portal. And we'll talk about some arms they're in on that I've picked up on along the way, just looking at different sites along. That's what I know. Those guys are got 0% chance Drew Beam returns. I think a small percent chance on Aaron Combs, maybe a little more of one on AJ Causey. I still expect both of those guys to be gone, though, at this point. I think they're, especially Combs, I think a team will draft him sometime in the teens, possibly. I mean, we've seen pitchers the last couple of years get drafted that were not near as effective as these guys. And you have to take into effect, well, could they come back and improve their stock? Sure. But here's the thing. Right now, they still have eligibility. They have leverage in their bonus. They come back next year where they're out of eligibility. They have no leverage. Guys get drafted. They're going to the pros. It's very rare that we see any who are drafted, who are, a junior, say in college, that they come back. It's rare. It does happen occasionally, but it is rare. Under Tony Vitello, I cannot remember a guy who has come back in that case. All of them, I know at least over the last few years who have been drafted, have gone pro. Like I said, they have leverage in their bonus because teams are given a slot. There's a slot designation, but you'll see there's a strategy to it. You can't just go out and draft every best player available, because if you get guys, and I'll talk about a couple of these guys here in a minute with Tennessee signing class, you get some of these guys here that they're asking, I guess their bonus they're asking for is really high. That's going to take away from somebody later on. So teams often will avoid those guys. Like a Chase Burns, for example. If somebody would have met, his asking price, he would probably went pro, but he put a high asking price because he intended to go to college. Tennessee has a couple pitchers now that I've seen. I saw Ben McKee of 24/7 Sports refer to this, Anson Siebert and Tegan Coons. They're both top 100 prospects according to perfectgame.com. And I've seen him talk about their asking price is going to be really high. So, if a team, sure, they'll go. But if they don't, those guys will come to campus. And they're both considered big-time prospects. How could they help, immediately out of the gate? Both of them right-hand pitchers. But that's how Tennessee's pitching will be affected. And again, talking about the high school, of course, I mentioned Siebert. I mentioned Tegan Coons. Now, some other ones they have, Braden Krenzel out of Dublin, Ohio, is ranked 79th according to perfectgame.com. And then their next highest, Tate Strickland, Powder Springs, Georgia, 155. Ryler Smart, 179. Pearland, Texas. He's a left-handed pitcher. Aiden Hayes, Morris, Illinois. Those guys are all top 300 according to perfectgame.com. And that's not including your fielders here, which I'll get more into them here in a minute. So that's the pitching. And, so how can, what? We're going to break this into two parts. Let's break it into two parts here. So there's your pitching. There's how I see the pitching being affected next year. So now if we look at portal, again, Dallas, Schaefer, they're in the portal. They're gone. Could any more guys hit the portal today? Possibly. I mean, you never know. But guys, I look to take that next step next year. I'm looking at Marcus Phillips, who's playing summer ball with Elizabethton in the Appalachian League. Dylan Loy is playing with the Kingsport Axemen. I expect him to take another step, possibly and be in that rotation. A big question mark is going to be A.J. Russell. What he's going to be, based on the timeline of when he has surgery, June 11th, 8 months he can throw. That would put him around February, 1st of February. So will he be, what can we expect? I would caution in expecting him a whole lot in terms of him being able to come in through 100 pitches. I mean, maybe once they get into SEC play, he's ready to go into that rotation. But I would be really surprised if it's before then, because there's going to be a rehab process. And I think, maybe work his way up. That's just based on when I've actually witnessed guys go through the recovery from Tommy John. It's not a quick thing. Russell's timeline seems to be a little quicker. Tennessee got very good news on that, because my first suspicion was he would be out for the year next year. Thankfully, he's not. Thankfully, it seems quicker. So hopefully we get him back. My expectation is Snead goes to the rotation. I really think he will. And the one thing I want to see to him, he's pitching for Team USA right now. And I'm curious to see if he goes to summer ball or if he just rests for the summer. The one thing I want to see for him that I think is separating him from being truly elite is that out pitch. He's a hell of a pitcher. All right. Don't make no mistake about it. I'm not saying he's not good. He is a hell of a pitcher. He did a great job for Tennessee. But based on how hard he throws and his stuff, he doesn't strike out a lot of guys. You know, if you're putting balls in play so bad, that's fine. I still think he needs that out pitch. He gets that one out pitch, some kind of off speed, a breaking ball, or just some movement on a fastball. Because I feel like his fastball's flat a lot. I think that's the difference in him next year. I don't think he's far off from being able to stretch out and get into the rotation next year. That is my expectation with him. Would it surprise me to see him continue in the same role? No. But I think with your losing your whole rotation with questions on when AJ Russell will be ready to go. I mean, you could get Causey back. It is totally possible you get AJ Causey back. I'm still going on the notion that I think he's gone, that he'll be drafted and gone. Now, if you get some of these freshmen, how do they plug in? Who's some other guys? That remains to be seen. A lot of guys are in summer ball right now pitching. I made a list yesterday, so I know Austin Hundley, Ashton Selleck, Dane Jordan, I already mentioned Marcus Phillips, Hunter Sloop, Dylan Loy, Brady Robertson, Bryson Thacker, all pitchers. They are all pitching in the Appalachian League this summer. Andrew Banky's throwing in Cape Cod League. I had Derek Schaefer. Of course, he hit the portal yesterday. And then J.J. Garcia's throwing in the Coastal Plain League for the Forest City Owls right now. So that's a lot of guys in summer ball. Of course, there's some other dudes who are not in summer ball, and I'm curious to see, are those guys resting? Are they working through injuries? Or they go hit the portal today? That's going to be the interesting thing to watch. So I'm just going to go. I didn't intend on breaking this up, but we've spent most of this time on pitching. Tennessee's got some nice prospects coming in. I'll talk about portal. Here's portal targets I know at this point pitching-wise. And there's an account, Volology, out there. He's on VolQuest. He made a list of them here. I've seen Eric Kane allude to it. I've seen Ben McKee. I've seen numerous things on Twitter as well. Trying to give credit to everybody who's doing this. Most of my content is original content, I'll tell you. But as far as portal news, team news and stuff, I'm not an insider. So I do try to give credit where it's due. As far as my observations, as far as my everything up in this video that I've done is original except for the portal news coming up right here. So pitching-wise, targets. Miles Patton, left-handed pitcher out of Long Beach State. I was looking at his numbers. He is a high strikeout pitcher. Tanner Franklin, Kennesaw State. He is from Jefferson City. High strikeout rate. He did have about a walk per game, so that's a little concerning, but maybe that's something they can fix there. Cade Fisher out of Florida, left-handed pitcher. And then I'm not sure this one is official, but I was reading about this. Liam Doyle, who's a left-handed pitcher for Ole Miss. So from what I had seen, it was expected he's going to enter the portal. Now, if he doesn't, obviously it's a moot point. But if he's in the portal, he came from Duke last year. And from what I've read, it was a guy Tennessee was interested in last year. You got to think they'll be interested again this time around also. And if I'm not mistaken, and I don't have his stats pulled up, he did throw, and he threw pretty well against Tennessee. So if he does indeed enter the portal, based on what I'm reading, it seems like a guy who will definitely Tennessee will be active with. There'll be more names along the way. That's the ones that I've gathered so far from like the outlets I mentioned. And, any more I'll mention as well. There's some fielders as well who are in here that I'll talk about on my second part, which I'll release later on this afternoon as well. But, as always, thank you guys for tuning into the content, for sharing it out, for liking it. It's greatly appreciated. It's greatly appreciated with this support of the channel. You guys, the listeners, that's how my content gets out here. That's where it gets out. Up to this point, I've not had any other outlets reach out about working with me or anything, wanting to work together. That's fine. None sharing it out. That's fine as well. I am open for business, but we'll see where it goes. But have a great rest of your Tuesday. Go Vols. I'll see you when I see you. And have a great rest of your day.